Chapter 2285, The Path to Omega-1. Unexpectedly, Ling's human form, which had seemingly lost all energy, suddenly stirred to life and instantly teleported into Xinglu's core source of supernatural power. Whoosh! A massive whirlwind erupted from Ling's mouth, drawing vast quantities of dense supernatural energy into her body. Her eyes flashed with silver light, as if some power was awakening. Zhang Yi froze for a moment. He knew nothing about Ling's human form, even Lu Karen struggled to fully comprehend it. It was a creation forged by the highest technology of the universe's most advanced civilization. But Zhang Yi's days lasted only a moment. He snapped back to reality, his eyes red with fury. "You're cheating. Leave me some." That was Xinglu's origin. It was a white knight-level power that could accelerate his growth, yet Ling's human form had snatched it away. Zhang Yi immediately charged forward, attempting to seize Xinglu's origin. But somehow, Ling's body seemed like a bottomless pit. By the time Zhang Yi reached her vicinity, most of the supernatural origin had already been absorbed by Ling. Only a meager fraction remained for Zhang Yi, leaving him seething with frustration. After absorbing this energy, Ling regained her intelligence. She now floated indifferently in midair, not even glancing at Zhang Yi. Fuming, Zhang Yi snorted through gritted teeth but still gathered what remained of Xinglu's origin power. Less than 30% remained for him now. And according to their agreement, he still had to share a small portion with Ho-Tu of the Xinjiang region. Looking at it this way, after all that hard work and effort, what exactly was he working so hard for? "Hockey Ling, you little." Zhang Yi glared at Ling venomously as he gathered the origin energy. But Ling replied matter-of-factly, "I helped you tremendously. What's wrong with asking for a bit of the ether energy?" Zhang Yi was speechless. He opened his mouth, utterly at a loss for words. Ling's argument seemed perfectly reasonable. It was just that all along, Zhang Yi had only ever regarded Ling as an earthly vessel, a robot. He had never treated her as an equal living being. Therefore, he naturally believed that everything Ling had gained should rightfully belong to him. Yet the Ling before him now didn't look like a robot at all. "You. What are you now? Are you even human? A second-generation human of the Yihan tribe?" Zhang Yi asked cautiously. Ling's brow furrowed slightly. "Do you remember that question from the trial at Tianyu Palace? What is the meaning of life?" Zhang Yi certainly remembered. His answer back then had been that the meaning of life was life itself, nothing more. "I'm getting confused." Zhang Yi rubbed his nose. Ling's human form possessed all of Ling's memories, lacking only the power of the ether. That Ling now resided within the collective of the ether, occasionally chatting with Zhang Yi. But this Ling before him had also absorbed vast amounts of ether energy. So, was she also Ling? This seemed a bit too philosophical. Ling said to Zhang Yi, "In your sixth-generation philosophical system, there's a concept called the Ship of Theseus. It's about a merchant ship named Theseus that sailed the seas. Built entirely of wood, its parts constantly wore out during its voyages and needed constant replacement. After many years, every single part of Theseus's ship had been replaced. So the question is this still the same ship?" Zhang Yi instinctively wanted to blurt out no, but upon reflection, he clamped his mouth shut. Just like Uncle Yu, whose body had been largely replaced with mechanical parts. So was Uncle Yu still Uncle Yu? He believed that he should be. If the ship of Theseus was no longer the original vessel, then at what point did it cease to be? Was it when the first plank was replaced, or the second, or the third? Zhang Yi scratched his head, clearly unsure how to answer this question. Ling pressed on, "Then one more question. If we took all the parts ever removed from Theseus's ship and reassembled them into a new vessel, which one would truly be the original Theseus's ship?" Zhang Yi sighed deeply, spreading his hands helplessly. "You know I've never been interested in philosophical stuff. Whatever you say goes." Ling's lips curved slightly as she replied calmly, "So whether I am Ling, or the one in the ether is Ling, doesn't really matter. What matters is that I know I am Ling. That's enough." Zhang Yi felt a bit confused. If one day his memories were transplanted into a robot's body, that robot would probably also believe it was Zhang Yi. Never mind, forget about that. But Zhang Yi stroked his chin, staring at Ling as he asked, so according to you, if I acquire enough etheric matter, could I potentially reach the level of that original Ling? The power of the Four Knights had once utterly astonished Zhang Yi. It was terrifying force capable of reshaping the entire world. If he could have such a powerful figure watching his back, why would Zhang Yi bother with all this nonsense anymore? Ling glanced at Zhang Yi indifferently. Of course it's possible. But the prerequisite would likely require you to destroy all of human civilization. The concentrated ether fragments might then reach that level. Zhang Yi rubbed his nose in frustration. Forget it. Do you think I'm some kind of natural-born killer? If he truly possessed that kind of power, he'd be better off advancing to a higher tier of mutant himself. Ling said nothing, simply gesturing for Zhang Yi to open the dimensional space. She stepped inside. Zhang Yi was speechless. Within his dimensional space, time flowed at a completely different rate than the outside world. Normal living beings entering it would struggle to adapt. Yet for Ling, this seemed utterly insignificant. Having just absorbed vast quantities of origin substance, Ling appeared to need time to fuse it with her mortal vessel. Zhang Yi could only watch helplessly, unable to intervene. Though he felt a twinge of regret, he quickly reminded himself that gaining such a powerful ally was ultimately a good thing. Just before closing the dimensional gate, Zhang Yi received a telepathic message in his mind. If you ever dare do that to my body again, I won't let you off. Zhang Yi's body froze abruptly. He had grabbed Ling's foot and used her as a weapon. He never imagined Ling could sense it. Sorry. I promise it won't happen again. Chapter 2286, The Path to Omega 2. Within the vast caverns deep beneath the earth lay the colossal Wulwan Empire. Its vertical expanse rivaled the size of a provincial unit in Huashu Kingdom. This once thriving ancient civilization now lay ravaged by war, transformed into a vast ruin and slaughterhouse. The mechanical life forms showed no mercy toward the lizard folk, and the Huashu Kingdom's coalition forces were filled with hatred toward them. Thus, this purge was conducted with meticulous thoroughness, every inch of land scanned with life detectors, then systematically excavated from ruins and underground shelters for immediate execution. Not a shred of mercy was shown, the air thick with the lizard folk's desperate wails. Green blood stained the streets, bones piled high along the thoroughfares, only to be incinerated en masse by the mechanical life forms using flamethrowers. Yet even these ashes were not wasted. The various elements within the bodies of over 20 million lizard men could be processed into fertilizer for crops. When Zhang Yi descended upon the central district, this was the hellish scene that met his eyes. He felt not a shred of pity. When these creatures slaughtered the people of Huashu Kingdom, they showed no mercy either. They killed millions of our kin. Today, tens of millions of lizard men must pay with their lives. Zhang Yi approached the imperial palace, where Yang Xinxin hurried over under the protection of Bam and Liang Yu. Seeing Zhang Yi, Yang Xinxin's eyes brimmed with a young girl's delight. She ran excitedly toward him, wrapping her arms around his sturdy waist. Brother, you're so amazing. You must have killed the Hades gatekeeper, right? She lifted her head to gaze up at Zhang Yi, her large eyes filled with anticipation. Once you absorb his origin power, you'll become the most powerful mutant in all the world. Then, a mischievous curve touched her lips, ruling the entire world, unifying all humanity. It wouldn't be impossible. Zhang Yi tugged awkwardly at the corner of his mouth. Xinxin, you really do have grand ambitions. But he had no such interest. Forget unifying all humanity, even if he were given the Jiangnan region to govern, he'd find it a hassle. Power was certainly a sweet thing, but its flip side was responsibility. He couldn't be bothered with the trivial concerns of so many people. However, I only absorbed a portion of Xinglu's origin. Zhang Yi explained the entire situation to Yang Xinxin. Upon hearing this, her gaze immediately deepened. Brother, this is a good thing. Yang Xinxin smiled as she told Zhang Yi. Oh? Why? Zhang Yi blinked, feeling a hint of regret about this. Yang Xinxin beamed. Even if you absorb Jinglu's origin power, transforming it completely into your own would take ages. After all, your grasp of etheric energy isn't at that level yet. But Ling is different. She's the vessel of the Four Knights, once the universe's most formidable combat entity. So the primordial power she absorbs can instantly convert into combat strength. Yang Xinxin stroked her chin, her eyes sparkling with excitement. If my guess is right, her current combat power has reached the level of a high black bishop. Considering her body's near indestructible nature, she might even stand a chance against a white knight. Brother, this is a game changer. Zhang Yi pondered for a moment before nodding with a smile. You're absolutely right. This is far superior to me slowly absorbing and digesting it myself. Though he currently held only about 30% of Jinglu's origin, after allocating a small portion to Ho-Tu, fully absorbing the remainder would boost his ability index by at least several thousand points. Such is the nature of mutants, the later stages of advancement grow increasingly slow, demanding higher-grade supernatural origin. This is evolution. Thus, every powerful being has walked a path paved with countless corpses. Amidst the raging battles surrounding them, the Imperial Palace remained eerily quiet. For apart from their small group, everyone else had perished. The lizardman's green blood stained everything around them, its pungent stench sharp in the air, though they had long grown accustomed to it. Zhang Yi scanned the surroundings. At this pace, clearing the entire Wulwan Empire will take at least another 3 to 5 days. Xinxin, can you tally our casualties from this battle? Large-scale group army warfare was, at its core, a contest of resource depletion. In this battle, the 6 major regions of the Huashu Kingdom had chosen to trust Zhang Yi, staking the nation's very fate. Each region had practically emptied its reserves. Energy reserves, source materials for manufacturing the Reaper of Love, and their most elite mutant troops. Though it appeared to be merely 50,000 troops, calling it the nation's full might was no exaggeration. As for Zhang Yi himself, at least 70% of the resources he'd accumulated over the years had been depleted. If the gains weren't substantial enough, Zhang Yi would suffer a massive loss in resources alone. Yang Xinxin's lips curved upward. Brother, you still don't quite grasp the concept of a war of national destiny. Now, I'll show you just how rich the spoils can be when you defeat an ancient civilization. By controlling the Empire's high command, Yang Xinxin now held the entire resources of the Wulwan Empire within her grasp. She led Zhang Yi into the palace, arriving at the exclusive conference chamber reserved for the emperor and his ministers. The decor was extravagantly ornate, with gold held in the same reverence as in the human world. Beneath the gilded splendor lay products of modern high technology. Yang Xinxin raised her hand, and a massive screen materialized in the air before them. Brother, what I'm about to show you represents the accumulated wealth of the Wulwan Empire over billions of time. As she spoke, Chinese characters rapidly appeared on the massive screen, starting from the top row. Originally written in lizard script, they had been converted. Imperial Primordial Energy Crystal Reserves, 323,325,353,832 grams of ore. Imperial Fossil Fuel Proven Reserves, 532,897,353,235,352 grams of molar. Imperial Firmer Metal Annual Output, 235,352,352 gigakilos. Imperial Firmer Metal Total Reserve Value, 453,235,353,231 gigakilos. Zhang Yi was utterly baffled. All he saw was a massive screen where strings of characters rapidly scrolled down, displaying information he couldn't comprehend, especially those units he'd never even heard of. He could tell it was a list detailing various resources of the Wulwan Empire. Zhang Yi looked completely perplexed, and Yang Xinxin naturally noticed this. She smiled as she explained to him, Brother, is it really that hard to understand? Chapter 2287, The Path to Omega 3. Zhang Yi scratched his nose and chuckled, I'd be damned if I could make heads or tails of this. But it looks pretty impressive, doesn't it? He gestured toward the screen. Seeing such an enormous list, he guessed the spoils of this battle must be immense. Yang Xinxin smiled and said, "You could roughly think of it as 20 times the resources currently possessed by all humanity worldwide." Pfft. Zhang Yi couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of water. He was stunned, his eyes wide, his body stiff. He stared at the screen in disbelief, unable to tear his eyes away, and found himself instinctively stepping closer. "20 times? Xinxin, you're not joking with me, are you? 20 times. 20 times. 20 times. Zhang Yi repeated the words 20 times over and over, feeling as if he were dreaming. He'd expected this battle's spoils to be substantial, but never imagined they'd be this immense. Yang Xinxin sighed. "Brother, this is only the current inventory. In truth, the Wulwan Empire still has unexplored mineral deposits yet to be fully mined. So the actual total resources far exceed this figure. I find this hard to believe." Zhang Yi sighed, still finding it hard to believe. There's nothing strange about this. Surface humans have barely scratched the surface of planetary development. The truly valuable resources lie deep underground, realms beyond our reach. Moreover, the Wulwan Empire has existed for over 100 million years. Their accumulated history is no joke. Yang Xinxin looked at Zhang Yi earnestly. If not for their fear of attracting attacks from other underground civilizations due to rapid expansion, and the Creator's punishment, their current power would be far beyond this. But thankfully, they deliberately restrain their development pace. With such vast accumulated resources, they likely plan to wait until external constraints weaken before using these resources to dominate. She tilted her head, grinning like a little devil. "It's just a shame all this stuff is now ours." Zhang Yi nodded, his eyes still fixed on the constantly scrolling list on the screen before him. Each line of text represented unimaginable quantities of resources. The people of the Wulwan Empire are such kind souls. Zhang Yi exclaimed with genuine heartfelt emotion. This meant that not only would all the resources expended on this expedition be recouped, but the gains would be hundreds of times greater than his original investment. This enormous windfall filled Zhang Yi with immense satisfaction. No wonder history was rife with endless wars. Plundered resources far surpassed what could be painstakingly developed over years, and at a fraction of the time. Don't blame me for this. If blame must be placed, blame yourselves for picking the wrong opponent. Zhang Yi waved his hand, signaling the soldiers to proceed with eliminating the remaining lizard men. Of course, Yang Xinxin had already ordered heavily fortified mechanical life forms to guard all critical areas. Too many had arrived, elites from every major region. This prevented them from stealing strategic supplies amid the chaos. Zhang Yi would distribute provisions later, but only what he gave could be taken. Looting was forbidden. Zhang Yi entered the conference room and immediately spotted the towering golden throne. The immense, majestic throne radiated regal authority, sparking boundless imagination at a single glance. Zhang Yi walked over and plopped himself down onto the enormous golden throne. "Now," he declared, "it's time to reap the spoils of war." Zhang Yi waved his hand grandly. "Except for the vital resource vaults, everything else you've captured, as long as it's not critically strategic, is yours to keep." The Wulwan Empire was immensely wealthy. Even ordinary households possessed resources invaluable to humanity. Grain, precious metals, flying machines. Zhang Yi felt it was only fair to let the soldiers who had come here taste some of the spoils. Upon hearing Zhang Yi's orders, the soldiers became as excited as if injected with adrenaline, plunging with renewed vigor. Those resources meant little to Zhang Yi, but to these soldiers, they held immense value. Take the grain reserves in a single lizard household, it was enough to feed a family of 3 for months if consumed by humans. Grain was the hard currency of the apocalypse. If they encountered nobles or wealthy merchants, the stores in their warehouses were even more vast. Zhang Yi placed no particular restrictions on the grain, allowing them to take as much as they wanted. After all, the tens of thousands of people in Tianhai City never lacked for food. don't let a single lizard man escape. Zhang Yi emphasized this point strongly. Lu Karen's voice reached his ears. Don't worry, big brother. Not a single one will escape. Lu Karen, a lollipop dangling from her mouth, lazily propped her two pale, delicate legs on the control console. The entire operations room was encircled by display screens. The entire territory of the Wulwan Empire lay under Lu Karen's command. Every attempt to pilot a ship away was shot down by the super battleship's laser cannons. Their escape route was completely severed. Zhang Yi stroked his chin. Could they have other escape routes? Did they let some people flee in advance? A cunning rabbit has 3 burrows. Zhang Yi's sharp mind grasped this possibility. After all, if he were in their position, he too would have prepared for every contingency in the perilous underground world. Yang Xinxin approached and informed Zhang Yi. They did indeed arrange for some young lizard noblemen and scientists to depart in advance. However, I've already dispatched personnel to pursue them. Zhang Yi looked at Yang Xinxin. Who did you send? Are they reliable? This matter was critical, there could be no carelessness. Letting even one enemy slip away could become a future threat to Huashu Kingdom. Yang Xinxin's face broke into that familiar, Yandere smile Zhang Yi knew well. It's one of their own people. 1,800 kilometers away from the Wulwan Empire, in a position diagonally below and to the east according to their bearings, the underground drift project was nearing its conclusion. A subterranean submarine pierced through layer upon layer of thick rock, finally reaching this cavern deep underground. Escorted by 2 loyal guards, over 100 outstanding descendants of royalty and nobility emerged from the submersible's cabin. The cavernous space was immense, its walls covered in yellow-green crystals. The young lizard folk still wore worried expressions, uncertain of the situation back in the Emperor's empire. A guard approached, offering reassurance. Your Highness Ace, this is Shelter Base 1. Communication with the Empire is completely severed here. Should the war end, His Majesty the Emperor will send word to contact us. Rest assured, this location holds abundant resources and prepared supplies for daily life. Even if disaster strikes the Empire, we can guarantee you all will be able to rebuild a new civilization here.